So, you've played your last game to death, beaten all the levels, gotten all the gear, you're done. Time for something new.
The new hotness.
A friend comes to you with this game, full of action, intense firefights, the kind of stuff that makes your heart race and your palms sweaty. That game is Escape from Tarkov. And let me tell you this up front, friends. You are not prepared. This is my list of things no one ever tells you about Tarkov. What is going on, people of the internet? My name is Josh, coming at you from Itami Games, and here are a few things you need to know about Tarkov. I wanted to make this video because I feel that with the new patch coming out, 11.7, well actually it's already out, that there was going to be a lot of new players, and those new players were probably going to be a lot like me. When I first started playing Tarkov, I had no idea what I was doing. I had no idea how to play the game. There were no instructions. Literally the only thing I had was one of the people that talked me into actually buying the game showed me the ropes. And I watched a bunch of YouTube videos and I learned as much as I possibly could on how to play the game, and that really helped. So I thought making something like a guide or just a simple tips and tricks kind of thing would help a lot of people out, because there's a lot of little shortcut things and a lot of stuff that just nobody ever tells you about. So if you aren't playing the game with friends, sometimes it can be difficult to learn, and YouTube is something that's great for that. So the first thing I want to talk about is your extracts. You need to know your extracts, and the difference is between scav extracts and PMC extracts. Scavs have a lot more variety when it comes to extracts. Usually PMCs only get like 2 to 4, but this is an example of the map Woods, and if, as you can see on the map, there are a bunch of different extracts. All of these labels along the side are the extracts, and some of them, and then obviously the arrows are the insertions. Green here is obviously the PMC extracts, and the white ones are both. So you depending on where you spawn, you can, usually it's on the opposite side of the map. So my advice to you would be definitely to Google the maps, and if you have the ability to have a second screen, or if you have a laptop or a phone or a tablet or something you can keep next to you, it'll be a big help in actually looking at the map and having an idea of where those extracts are in relation to you. Map knowledge is very important in Tarkov because it helps you with positioning, as well as knowing in an emergency, which is going to happen, where you can get out. A second word on extracts would be some of the extracts that you're going to have actually cost rubles. So I don't always carry rubles in my gamma container or my alpha container in my case, but if you were to have a wallet and you keep 5,000 rubles in there, I think most of the extracts are 3,000. I think there is a couple that are 5. I haven't really run across any that are 5, but that's a possibility. So keep a little bit of money on you if you have the space in your container. That way, in a pinch, you'll be able to get out at one of these vehicle extracts. Like for example, this one, south vehicle exit, is 3,000 rubles. So if you don't have the money, you won't be able to get out. The caveat to that is the timer is longer to get out. Instead of 10 seconds, it's a minute, sometimes it's 30 seconds, but it's always going to be longer to get out from a paid exit. So just keep that in mind. So the next thing I want to talk about is health and the different body parts. Tarkov works off of a modular system when it comes to your health. So you have different parts of your body. You have your head, your thorax, the infamous thorax, your arms, your stomach, and both your legs. Each of them has their own health bar, and you have to keep all of them maxed out as much as you can. There's also a bunch of status effects depending on what happens to a limb or what happens to your stomach, for example. And then also you need to keep an eye on your hydration. Hydration is important on longer raids. Usually it doesn't really matter, but if you take an injury in the stomach, you're going to lose hydration, and the faster you run and the longer you stay in the raid with a wounded stomach or a blacked out stomach, the more you exert yourself with that blacked out stomach, the more damage you're going to do to your hydration. It'll go down faster. And once that goes down, you start taking damage on all your limbs progressively. So now we're going to talk about status effects. Here I pulled up the wiki, and you have an example of the status effects, and I'll have links to everything down in the description so that you'll know where to go to get this information for yourself. But if you just go over, there's different temporary status effects. You've got blood loss, fresh wound, fracture, pain, constitution, tremor, tunnel vision, painkillers, dehydration. As you can see, the list kind of goes on and on and on. Some of these I haven't seen, like Berserk. I've never seen Berserk, but a lot of these other ones are really important. Blood loss and fracture and pain are by far like the most affecting ones, or the ones you're probably going to see most often. Blood loss, depending on where you're shot and how you're shot, slowly leaks damage out of a body part. So as you can see over here on the right corner, if you get shot in the arm, or if you get shot in the leg and you're bleeding, you're slowly going to lose health points out of that limb until eventually it blacks itself out. That's the other thing too, that they don't talk about, or at least I couldn't find any like information on. When a limb gets blacked out, it's essentially done. You can't heal it anymore, you can't repair it, you can't fix it. So anything you can do to keep a limb from getting blacked out, if you have the ability to do it, you should do it, because once that limb's blacked out, it's gone. And there's nothing worse than getting 2 blacked out legs with no painkillers or nothing to kill the pain, and you have to run from one side of the map to the other side of the map, and it's going to take forever. It'll turn a 15-minute, snatch and grab to a 45-minute trek across the most awful of conditions and just terrain, and you can't sprint. So now you're probably asking yourself, well, how do I fix it? Well, there's a few different ways, and there's a few different items that will help you out. Most notably, you have painkillers, morphine, ibuprofen, bandages, and the different miscellaneous health packs. Now they all have different things. Most of the health packs, with the exception of what people call cheese, will stop bleeding. The CAR, Salewa, IFAC, they'll stop bleeding in a body part. As you can see here on the side, it shows you what it can remove. The Grizzly's by far the best. It counts as like a splint. That's another thing. Splints are for fixing fractures, so that if you don't have a painkiller, you can put a splint on it and you can walk on it at normal speed again. A Grizzly is like a splint. It cures constitution, or builds your constitution. It cures pain. It's basically an all-arounder, but the trade-off is it's 4 squares. So if you have an alpha container, take up the whole alpha container. If you have a gamma, it's not such a big deal, but they're also kind of hard to come by from time to time, unless of course you buy them off the flea market. But the IFAC's probably where you're going to use the most. It's the easiest to get, and it only takes up 1 square. Salewa and the CAR take up 2 squares. The cheese only takes up 1, but again, also you'll notice that the different med packs have different stores of health in them. The grizzly has 1400, it's the most, and it goes down the line until you get to the A12 medkit, which is only 100. So different things fix, you know, different status conditions. The next thing I want to talk about is your insurance. Tarkov has a mechanism built in where you can insure your gear as long as it's not labs, and if the gear is not found in the raid by another player or another player scav and extracted with, it'll be returned to you. Now, one of the tricks for leveling up proper, for example, is you can insure through him. So one of his requirements for getting levels with a trader, which we'll talk about later in the video, is to spend a certain amount of money with him. Well, you can save a lot by repairing, for one, which we'll also talk about later in the video, but you can insure with him, so that money counts towards the cash that you need to spend towards him. But anyway, I digress. I usually insure most things that I take in. The insurance cost depends on who you use. You can use therapist or proper. Therapist is more expensive, but you get your stuff back faster. But again, you're spending more money. I don't know the exact percentage, but at the bottom you will see the sum total that you'll pay, the what you have in your stash, and the length of time that it takes to come back to you, assuming that it wasn't extracted with. It's a good idea to insure stuff, especially if you have the money. I usually just say, you know, to hell with it and insure all of my stuff, with the exception of just trash and garbage that I don't really care about, like scav vests and TAWSs or anything that I'm just trying to meme with. A tip that I would say is pretty well known in the community is, if you find something that you want to take with you out of the raid, you can take your items and actually throw them in a bush or just throw them somewhere where you know no one is going to find them, and take the new gear and extract with it. That way that old gear gets returned to you, since no one's able to actually recover it, and you get out with the gear that you found in the game. That happens a lot. Every now and then you'll get lucky and you'll run up across some gear that somebody has chucked out, and you might get lucky and find a gun or something cool. The next thing that I'm going to talk about is going to be just real quick, but look at the wiki. This is the official wiki for Escape from Tarkov. It is just chock full of information that you can go through and you can read, and it will really help you kind of get a firm grasp on the mechanics of the game, as in theory, as well as the rules and just strategies, as well as the maps that you need, and information on any items that are in the game, including spawns and things like that. It's a really great source of information, and it's just completely invaluable. It's something that every Tarkov player should look at. They update it regularly. I believe they were just recognized as being the official wiki finally of Escape from Tarkov, so that that's great for them, and it's just something that you just have to, if you're going to be serious about the game, you have to look at it. All right, so the next tip I have for you is to check out this website. The link's going to be in the description, and I might put it up here. It is from a user called No Food After Midnight, and he has done meticulous work on finding out the different ammo types of the game. Not all ammo is created equal. I cannot stress that enough. I can't tell you how frustrating it is to go into a raid, realize that you have the wrong ammo in your gun, and it's, when I say the wrong ammo, I mean the actual penetration and damage of that round, and you come against a fully geared guy and he just absolutely stomps you because you shoot him 30 times in the chest and nothing happens. So not all ammo is created equal. This website, which again I'll link down in the description, is just an absolute full chart of the different kinds of ammo and their effectiveness against armor, as well as their extra properties like fragmentation and things like that. It also comes down to armor damage percentage, penetration value, actual damage. I mean, he breaks it down in such detail. It's insane. Thanks so much to him. Without him, we would just be guessing. The next thing I'm going to talk about is armor, as well as its properties and coverage areas, because there's obviously different parts of the body and different armors cover more or less of those parts. Here I pulled up an example of a Gen 4 high mobility. The armor is obviously what it looks like. Then you have your class, your material, and the penalties that armor has, like movement speed, ergonomics, turning speed, things like that. But if you go here, over this side, it tells you the actual parts that it covers. The best armor in the game is a grade 6. This is called a fort armor. They've recently added a new one. This is the brand spanking new one. It kind of looks like a samurai outfit. It's kind of cool. It's a grade 5. The highest again is a grade 6 armor, and this one here covers the left arm, right arm, the thorax, and the stomach. The different kinds of armor have different grades. This one's a level 6. If you look at this 3M armor, for example, this is a level 2. So the higher the number, the better it is, and this only covers the thorax and stomach, whereas the other one covers the arms as well. So make sure you pay attention to that when you go into a raid with a specific kind of armor, and whatever you can afford to bring in, the higher the number, obviously the better. So the next tip I have for you is, when you first start the game, you're going to be greeted with this screen, and what you should do, just to save you time for one, and then also to save you from having to do it in raid when you're listening and trying not to die, is go into the traders, and all of the items that look like this, that are grayed out, that have nothing, no picture, no anything like that. As you can see how they're all grayed out. If you click the middle mouse button, you will examine those items, and you can examine a bunch of them at a time. You know, just basically keep examining them. What that does is it'll keep you from having to do it in the raid, because if you haven't examined an item, you won't be able to equip it. You can carry it in your backpack, but you won't be able to actually put it on your person. So if you go into a raid and you find a gun that you've never seen before, you won't be able to pick it up until you've examined it. And while you're in raid, when you're trying to, keep from getting shot at, and grenades are flying at your face and the laser scavs are shooting at you from all directions, you don't want to have to be examining items just so you'll be able to use them. Another tip is, when you're going through a backpack or a rig or anything like that, the best thing is always examine the rig first if you're going to pick it up, because if you don't examine the rig, any spaces that have not been examined yet, you won't be able to use. So if you pick up a rig and you don't examine it, but it's full of ammo, you won't be able to use it until you've searched through it and found the items that are inside. All you need to do is hit the search button to go through it. You can control click as well, and what that'll do is it'll start searching, and once you've reached a certain point, you'll be able, anything you've discovered in there, you'll be able to use, like magazines or grenades or anything like that. The next point I'm going to talk about is linked searches for your guns. If you're trying to build guns, it is very kind of unintuitive, I think, the way that they've designed the system for modding weapons. unless you know exactly what you need to do, because sometimes you'll be trying to put a sight on a gun and you just cannot figure out why you can't put the sight on the gun. Tarkov's focus on realism. They've gone through such intense detail on how these guns are put together that only specific sights work with specific mounts, work with specific stocks. So there's caveats to everything. Not every sight works on every gun without an adapter or something like that. The same goes for suppressors. You can't just put a suppressor on a gun. You have to put the actual muzzle adapter and then put the suppressor on the gun. This is something that took me a little while to figure out, just because it was kind of hard to find information on it in the beginning. But the easiest way to figure out what you need for a gun in order to mod it. So if we take like this 8R for example, if you open up the 8R, you can see this one has a suppressor on it. If you take the suppressor off, you notice that it's 2 slots and it's kind of crooked. Double click it again and you can take the suppressor and the adapter off. So you need to put the suppressor on the adapter and then put the full unit on the actual gun itself. The other tip that you can do if you don't have the items that you need to actually build the gun is if you right click it and hit linked search, it'll pull up all the items that you can actually use on that gun, the different ammo types, different mods, anything like that. The only caveat is when it comes to certain guns, the mods are interchangeable. So this will just kind of narrow your search down a little bit for that very specific gun. But sometimes a gun in that class, like an AK, or for this example, an M4 style gun, you would be able to use the M4 parts on an 8R because those parts are interchangeable because they're kind of on the same platform. But if you right click and hit link search, it'll bring you to the different items that are related to that gun. So if you need an adapter, or if you need a magazine or a stock or something like that, you can go down and you can actually find the parts that are related to that specific gun, and it'll also let you know what type of class you need to search for in case you can't actually find that one thing that you're specifically looking for. So like here's a grip. This gun works with the 8R, or this grip works with the 8R, but it would also work for an M4 or an HK or something like that. So coming to the end of the video, I have 2 more tips for you. The second to last here is the dealers, in order to be able to buy certain things from them, have different tiers. Those tiers are 1, 2, 3, and 4. And at those different, now I haven't played that much since the wipe, so my proper here is level 1. So I can only buy his level 1 items, and these are all the items that are available on level 1. He also has level 2, level 3, and level 4. In order to level up your trader for different trader reps, you'll notice in the top right corner of the screen, you have your requirements, and this one in particular is you need to be level 15 and you need to have spent $1 million or 1,000,000 rubles. But what they don't tell you is anything that you sell to him goes towards that total. So you don't have to actually have found and sold and then rebought 1,000,000 rubles worth of things. Anything that you sell goes towards that total, as well as anything that you buy. And with proper, if you repair or insure your items when you go into a raid, that money actually goes towards that total as well. Same goes with therapist or mechanic, depending on who you repair your items with. So those are some prerequisites in order to level up the traders. Once you do get a trader leveled up beyond level 1, new items become available and new barters become available. And that helps along with being able to get the things that you need if you're trying to build a certain gun, or if you need a specific type of ammo or something like that, and you don't want to buy it on the flea market, or you can't buy it on the flea market. Now, the last thing that I want to talk about is something that I think every Tarkov player goes through, especially in the beginning, and very especially if you are brand new to the game, and that is the subject of gear fear. Now, when I say gear fear, what I mean is, all right, you've gone through, you've done a couple raids, everything's gone great, you've gotten out with some loot, and now it's sitting in your stash. What are you gonna do? Are you gonna let it sit there and just collect dust? Or are you actually going to take that hard-earned gear that you made it out of raid with, and are you going to go back into a raid and having a better advantage than potentially somebody else? Don't be afraid to use your gear. It's a game. You're supposed to have fun. You're supposed to have a good time, and the items are there to give you an advantage over somebody that doesn't have the same things, and to give you a better chance of surviving a firefight that you're inevitably going to get into, because it's going to happen. Don't be afraid to die. You're gonna die a lot, like a lot. So that gear that you have, if you die 100 times in a row, maybe a vest would have saved you. Maybe a helmet would have saved you. Maybe a better gun would have saved you. A suppressor, an attachment, a sight, grenades, health items, anything. Just don't be afraid to bring the gear that you've worked really hard for, and I know it's scary to lose, into the raid, because it's going to give you an edge over somebody that doesn't have that, or that has that gear fear, on top of the fact that it's doing nothing sitting in your stash. A friend of mine has had gear sitting in his stash the first day he gets it, from the first day of the wipe all the way until the last day. And that is just pointless. It does nothing for anyone, and it's no fun. You're supposed to have fun in the game. Have fun with it. That gear is there for you to enjoy. Guys, thank you so much for watching the video. I hope you learned something. I hope it was enjoyable for you. Do me a favor, if you liked the video, smash that like button up top, hit subscribe, and check the bell notification to stay up to date on all the videos I post when I post them. And don't forget, share this around. Maybe you'll be able to help somebody out. If you want to follow me on Twitter, I'll have a link in the description below. And I try and stream on Twitch at least 2 or 3 times a week. I'm still working on my setup a little bit, but I'm getting more consistent with it. If you want to check me out over there, I'll have a link for that down below as well. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time.